Hey guys, Zero here, and I got another unboxing for you, but this one is a little different or interesting. For those of you who know what this yellow tape means, it is, if you don't know, this is a recast model from China that my buddy and I picked up. My buddy Rob, I want to get a shout out to. Recently, Rob picked up a Warhound Titan for his show, to put out on display, round out his Dark Angels army / Imperial army. And he knew that I've always liked the Reaver Titan. It's always been one of my favorite of the larger models. That's just something I could never really afford or even justify affording. I mean, $1,100, it's just not. I couldn't do that for a model that I knew was going to sit on the shelf, and that's all it was going to do. But recently, through the recasting community, I found someone who made a Chaos Reaver Titan, so I picked it up. Rob, he pitched in on it for me for Christmas, which again, thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate it, man. And we both got these models knowing that we were probably never going to use them in regular games of Warhammer 40k. We have a big apocalypse game planned, my entire Chaos Force versus his Dark Angels, and that's probably where we will use these. But for the most part, they're going to be display models just to kind of round out the look of the army. And if God willing and future projects come through, they may be display models in our store, if God willing. Yeah, I've already popped open the box to check it. It's a pretty big box. I will put this to the side. Very heavy. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are against recasting, and I get it. That is your prerogative, but I'm not, and that's my prerogative. And again, I doubt I'll be using this in very many games. It's probably going to be a display for the most part, which is why I was okay paying what we paid for it, as opposed to the $1,100 total that Forge World wanted. So we'll go through here and show you a bunch of these parts. Some of these are in, there's a lot of little parts. I'm going to zoom in here, so I don't have to check that out. That is the gauntlet, or power claw, for the Titan. Here are some claws and the little bits that go with it. Now, as with most recasts, there's going to be work to do, because there are a lot of rough castings, like you can see in there. I'm not disillusioned by the quality difference. Although, to be fair, I have never seen, let me rephrase. I've seen the Forge Worlds at the conventions and things like that, but only at a distance. I have a stigmatism issue, so, for me to find detail and see that type of stuff, I've got to get close to the model to look at it, which I don't do with these types of things at those types of events, because you never know whose model it is and who, how they're going to feel about you getting close to their model or picking it up to inspect it, and whether or not they're going to be 100% honest with you about how it came together, how much work it took. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they spent $1,100 on a Reaver, they're going to be like, yeah, it's great, it's awesome. No, there wasn't no problems with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to tell you all that shit just to subconsciously justify their purchase. which to me, you know what, I don't give a shit. If I don't like something, I'll tell you. If it's not right, I'm gonna tell you. A lot of times, most of my friends or old friends will tell you, they count that as one of my big character flaws, is that I'm honest about it brutally sometimes, but I feel like if I'm bullshitting you, then that's what you're gonna know me for, and I'd rather not have that type of relationship with anybody. It's not worth it, because then you gotta constantly cover your fucking tracks or backpedal. I'm just not gonna do that. Want my opinion, you're gonna get it, whether it's positive or negative. You just gotta accept that that's who I am. Here's the front chest armor. Hold on 1 second. So here's the front chest armor. One of the first pieces I found that is definitely warped and twisted. So I'll have to repair that. But you can see it. It's pretty bad. But it's nothing I haven't seen before, even in legitimate kits. But these are the things you have to look out for when you're doing resin. But here's the main body. My biggest con, one of the bigger cons of recasts, and especially in a kit like this, where it's so big and you've got so many parts, is that I have no instructions, so I'm gonna have to do some internet searching, see if I can find something, or I'm just gonna have to do it old school and piece it together, just work on getting this done as best as I can. Here's the main carapace armor for the cockpit. Not really the cockpit, but the back, the main armor piece. It looks pretty good. It's definitely a thinner resin, it seems pretty well done. It doesn't seem very warped. There's a little bit of warpage. You can see a little twisted, but you can, hot water and a blow dryer will fix that, or a heat gun. Here's the top of the head armor. There's very little detail on this piece. There's some trim detail. Nothing really major. I'll probably magnetize this so I can pop it off and show you the interior. Again, a little bit of warp, a little twisted sideways warping, but that'll come straight once I warm it up. There's a lot of parts to this model, so I'm going to try and get through it. I apologize, I don't want it to take forever. In here, there's void shields and little bits. I'm not going to take those all out because it's an easy way to lose them. And I have a tendency of losing resin bits. Here, we have one of the main armaments, tri-barrel cannon, which is basically like a giant las cannon. And then there are the barrel tips, the arm socket that goes with it, and then the shroud that goes over the weapon. It's interesting because this shroud doesn't look chaos at all. That just looks like the Imperial weapon shroud, which it probably is. I don't know if they made a chaos tri-barrel laser. For the most part, these barrels are straight. There's a little bit of twisting here on one of them. I can fix that. Not too bad. I mean, but this weapon is pretty big, and it's going to be pretty hefty. So I'm going to have to use a bunch of magnets to hold it down, just to attach it to the Titan, because glue is not going to hold that in place. It looks like they have some spots like for where a magnet would go. We'll see. As I said, these models require a lot of time and work, and this more than most, you know, like big tanks or whatever, you know, you got to put a little bit of extra effort in to get them to look good, or at least respectable. There's a lot of flashing on there, you can see that. Looks like the rear, or the center cod piece. And there is the head. Cockpit in there. Where the pilots are, there's some chaos stuff in there too. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up. There's some chaos iconography in the back wall here. It's pretty cool. Looks like the hip joint. Needs a little bit of touching up, but not too bad. More parts. This looks like a piece of armor. One of the lower leg armors. So, you know. I feel like this kit, like I've seen people use them in games, but I don't know, you know, an apocalypse game with one of these in it, it's just, your opponent has to have adequate means to handle this type of thing. You're not just going to use Land Raider Terminus Ultras and expect to have some kind of good result against one of these walkers. I mean, yeah, it's las cannons, but that's not the end all be all. You're going to need something with macro weapons. You're going to need something that's going to slow this thing down, you know. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a lot of units trying to take one of these down. And yeah, you know, it may seem like you're gaining weight. You may even take it out, but the amount of resources used to take it out could have, you know, cost you the game because you couldn't put those resources somewhere else. So my thing with these kinds of things are, you know, talk to your opponent, you know, and say, hey, do you want to play a game against a Reaver Titan? maybe make it a scenario based game. This is the torso there. It's got an eye of chaos. Corrupted hatch. You know, make it a scenario game where the focus is the Titan, or make sure, and you see, that's recast problems right there. Gotta fix all that. Then again, I don't know. That might be a Forge World problem. Who knows? You know, if they're getting this straight from the cast of the actual Forge World parts. And I heard someone was saying, you know, that recasts are actually smaller than the original because you're taking a cast of a model of a cast, you know, so you're getting this littler by fractions of an inch, you know. That might very well be because they obviously don't have the original molds, but it's not gonna make that big of a difference. There's some of the leg armor. I really like the chaos edging on there. It's pretty cool. Big old torso bit. Have to magnetize that up. Some more leg armor. You've got the hips, I think. Yeah, I think those are the hips. Yeah, it's not bad, you know. But you know, I've played against people. I've used giant models against people, you know, that wanted to play and like, oh, let's play a game. You use your big tank. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And then they have nothing to contend with it, or they lose because they use all their resources to take that vehicle out. And to them, that's the game. And to me, it's like, no, you still didn't win the game, bro. You just took out the big ass tank. That's, you know, if that was your goal, we should have made it that, you know. So here are all the feet, the toes. And again, it's got that chaos edging on it. You know. There's 8 of them. Because Reavers have 8 toes. You know, so unless they have something that can properly contend with something like this, it's going to be a one-sided battle, and they're just going to become salty. They're just going to be, you know, they're going to feel cheated, they're going to feel salty, and they're going to be, you know, resentful of this type of model. So generally, these are the big shoulders. I won't play against people with one of these unless I know for sure they have adequate resources, either Titans or Titan killing weapons, or big flyers with Titan killing weapons. You know, they don't have the potential to contest with something like this. I won't use it in a game. And I might if there's a scenario. There's the upper thigh. You know, and the scenario revolves around this Reaver Titan. You know, and if that's the case, then yeah, then that's the structure of the game, but not just a one-on-one. You know, he's got like 4 land raiders and he's ready to take on the world. It's like, no, dude, that's not gonna cut it. Do your math. You know what I'm saying? Do your homework. These things are Titans for a reason. Their weapons are ridiculously powerful, and they do, even if they do minimal damage, they're still doing a ton of damage compared to most other vehicles and units in the game. So I'd be that asshole to say, yeah, let's go for it, wipe him out, or table him completely and walk away with a smile on my face like, you know, this fucking Reaver Titan, what do you think was gonna happen? You know, I'm not that guy. I'd rather have fun. I'd rather have a fun game and my opponent come back to play more games than to send him packing and resentful. So these are the shoulder plates. They go right on top of the little shoulder pads. Here's the second one. Even more chaosy than the first. I've been debating for some time whether or not to make this part of my Death Guard force or my Chaos Undivided force. I think the Reaver will look good either with the red and brass for Crimson Slaughter, but it will also look good for the green and brass for the Death Guard. And I could put some Death Guard stuff on here, you know. Here's another center cod piece there. It probably goes to the rear, you know. So I'm still debating on what color to go with. Originally, I had envisioned this model being part of the Death Guard army. I personally do not want to overly convert this model. I don't want to go into these buckets of green stuff, you know, to make this guy look more nurgly than necessary. I mean, I might put some stuff on there, but I didn't want it to be that kind of project. Here's the carapace for the main cockpit. Here's the gnarly teeth. I'm not sure how I feel about those teeth, but it is what it is. You know, so again, I'm gonna do some kind of, like, I'll probably put maybe a horn, a single horn here or something to kind of represent Nurgle. Although, you know, when a Titan falls to chaos, they get possessed by a demon, a greater demon of some kind. So, who knows? These are the plates for the legs. They go like that, or of that nature. There's 4 of them. You can see the detail on that. It's pretty good. And again, you know, this is primarily for display for my Chaos Army. I would love to use it in games. I would love to, you know, have games where people focus on this as a target, you know, in scenarios. Narrative games I think would probably work really well, or Apocalypse, obviously, in which I will play Apocalypse games with my buddy Rob, because he has, you know, he has the means physically with the models that he has in his army to contest with one of these, you know. But otherwise, so here's some interior panels. I can see here in pieces like this that are extremely detailed is where you start to see the falter in recasts. You know, there's these plates up here. They're very, very thin, so I'll probably have to fix those. I mean, it's great detail. You know, it shows how cramped and congested these things are inside to operate in. But yeah, I'm gonna have to fix some of this stuff. You know, and you know, I could just leave it as it is and just, you know, chalk it up to like, well, no one's ever gonna see it, but I'll know, you know, and I'll know that that's there, and I'll know that there's an interior. It's just like I used to tell all of the people in my club, in my gaming club, like, hey man, if that tank's got an interior, just paint it up. You know, it's part of the model. You know, don't glue the back door on. Just paint it and have it there. Be done with it. Do it right. This is a huge piece. Look at the size of this piece. This is just one chunk of resin. You hurt somebody with this. Definitely gonna have to get a huge magnet for this. It's got like an Imperial Aquila. I don't know if you can see it very well. Got it on the other side right there. This is the Gatling cannon. There's the barrels. Now some of these are warped. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a little warped. But that's warp 2. That 2. That one's not so bad. That one's not so bad. That one's definitely warped. There's the main cylinder that holds them in place. There's the shoulder. I challenge any of you to show me a Forge World model or resin kit from any company that has multiple barrels of length, not just little stubby bolter barrels, but multiple barrels of length that don't come warped. That's just the nature of the beast. It's just the way it is. It's one of those things you just learn. You have to deal with, like it or not. You know. So it doesn't bother me. I knew that was going to be a thing. Especially with, you know, like I said, any cannon with multiple barrels, you know, they're going to come warped. It's just what happens with resin. I mean, it's part of the, you know, when they pull them out of the mold and then they set them to dry, you know, depending on where they place the tree to hold them, you know, it all depends. There's another weapon. This is a carapace, the carapace weapon. These are all the missiles. There's the missile launcher housing. You know, that's going to go like that. Got this piece right there. Sit there so I can raise it, lower it. I'm going to have to magnetize that. Here's the rear vents. Goes on the back here. And then again, those are all the rockets or missiles that slot right into the front of this, which is kind of cool. I'll probably get some nerdlings or something to throw on top of this, you know, just to kind of, I don't know. I'm trying not to go overboard with converting, because this model is already big. It's already going to be complicated. It doesn't, you know what I mean? You don't need to over embellish it. People are going to know. And if you paint it right, people will know what it represents. So here are the back engines, the rear engines. Sorry. As you can tell, this is where the void shields go. They're two halves, so there's a little bit of interior detail there, in there. Huge piece again, big chunky piece. There's some spiky bits that are broken, But you know, when spikes or bone spikes are broken, see, there's one there that's busted, and then there's one on this one that's busted. Which is, to me, it happens. I like to drill holes in them, kind of look like they got decayed or rotted out. So that's a cool fix. Or, you know, if worst came to worst, I could use some green stuff and make some wool spikes. That's extremely easy to do. This is a big ass kit, man, with a lot of parts. But I did say something big was coming. So, you know, here we are. Show you guys one of these. Even though there's two, you don't really need to see both of them. That is actually the big hip, I think, because you can see where the pistons go and stuff. And the legs, like the thigh is like really, it's got like huge pistons, you know, which it should. Almost done. Another triple laser cannon. They must have sent that by mistake. I appreciate that mistake, but I didn't order. We ordered a separate one because initially this model was supposed to come with the Gatling cannon and the power claw, but it looks like they threw in another gun. And here's a whole bag of tubes, pistons, tiny little parts that go to this model. And I'm gonna have to really do my homework. There's the servitors in there, the little servitor guys that go in the canopy and inside the shoulders, because each one controls one of the weapons. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of homework to figure out where a lot of these parts go. You know, here are the feet, or the base of the foot. Pistons go in there, leg goes in there, and then the toes go here. It's pretty cool. It's got some cool detail. It doesn't look very functional as a foot, but whatever, it's a foot. So do some cleaning up in here. You can see there. That's where it came from, the mold. And then, again, finally, I won't take these out of here, but I will show you as best I can. They're little icons, chaos iconography, little vents, bits, pieces that probably adorn the outside of the model. So, you know, you could actually embellish more. So, that is the Chaos Reaver Titan and all of its little baggy bits. You know, again, you know, I understand if some people, again, find this to be bothersome because it's a recast, but, you know, that's your call. It's your choice in life or not to do. There's a reason you don't see these things in tournaments, you know. There's a reason you don't see them in games outside of Apocalypse or narrative games. They're just really, really big, really, really powerful. And for $1,100, if I was to buy an original one, I would not want to travel with it. I would not want people touching it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even at this cost, I still don't want people touching it. You know, I would prefer people didn't put their hands on it, simply because, you know, it's one thing if I break something of my own handling it, It's another thing when someone else breaks it. Now, if I was to say, hey, you have to pay for that, they're gonna be like, hell nah, that's just a toy, whatever, and I gotta slap somebody, you know. So I'd prefer people don't touch my models in the first place, you know. And I used to go to tournaments, and I used to go to conventions, and I used to play games, used to bring all my stuff, and, you know, I'd get those guys, oh, let me check out your model. They'd pick it up, they'd handle it, and it's like, hey man, one, I'm in the middle of a game, and two, that's my personal property. It's not the stores, it's not the convention centers, it's no longer Games Workshop's, it's mine, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't touch it and if you didn't mess with it, because if something happens to it, you're not going to pay for it. And I actually had an incident with a Forge World Tyranid Hive Tyrant, the first flying Hive Tyrant that Forge World made. It was one of my first Forge World models, and I had it on the table and I was playing a game, and some little Timmy son of a bitch, you know, decided he had to have his hands on it, and I asked him not to, and as he was pulling it away from the table, it slipped out of his hands, fell, and broke. And, you know, he was a kid, so I didn't want to, like, jump down his throat, you know. He was just excited. But my concern was like, dude, where's your parents? You know, didn't they teach you not to be touching shit that wasn't yours? But apparently these people didn't, you know. And they dropped him off to this event, you know, like a daycare center. So there was literally nothing that could be done, or if I could find these people to even attempt to get it to pay for it. I just had to fix my model and be done, and be that with that. So from that point on, I just cease and desist on all touching of people's models and having people touch my models. That's just a preference thing. But anyway, that is my unboxing of the Forge World Recast Forge World Reaver Titan. Really excited to build it. I can't wait. I'm gonna get it out on the table against Rob. He will be probably my only opponent ever with this model, because he's the only person I know that has something to contend with. Unless somebody's out there that I don't know is building an army that I am unaware of, you know, that's it. Or I'll have multiple players play against it just to, you know, as a narrative part of the campaign or whatever. But I think it's pretty cool. There's some stuff I have to fix, you know, which is a little bit upsetting, but it's par for course with any resin kit. More so with the Recasts, sure, but you know, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna get it working, and I'm gonna get it painted up and on display. So hopefully I can do a series of videos with this, maybe kind of going through some of the stuff, sharing with you guys the pros and cons, or whatever, kind of like I did with the Tale of Two Thunderbolts. So stick with me and try to get those out to you guys. Alright, thank you guys for watching.